We've had our Bison a week now, and we've got 19 flights on it. We've learned a lot. We fixed the tail wheel, and on this episode of Model AV8R, we're going to use all this to show you what the maximum performance capabilities are on 6 and 4S, and we'll show you how to soup this thing up on 4S for less than 10 bucks. What's up, everybody? You're watching Model AV8R. My name's Adam, and thanks so much for all your support, the views, the likes, the subs, the comments on our first video. Please keep them coming. We're glad you're here. We've got a lot to go over on our update video on the Bison, so let's get right to it. We'll start with the tailwheel fix. Our fix for the tailwheel assembly, we did 3 things, 2 of which I don't think made much of a difference, and the other made a huge difference. The first thing we did is we twisted the springs when we put them on. We simply put one in one way and the other in the other way to just add some tension naturally to the springs. The second thing we noticed is that the control horn was sitting right on top of the tailwheel assembly, and when it would turn left, particularly right here, it was rubbing against the tailwheel assembly. That control horn is held by a grub screw that tightens down on a flat spot on the upper part of the tailwheel shaft. There was enough room on that flat spot to actually loosen this and move the horn up a bit and get it away from the top part of the tailwheel assembly, getting rid of that friction. But to be honest, I think what made most of the difference, we took our hobby oil and we simply put 3 drops right down here on the shaft once we had our control horn off, and let it run down in the channel that the tailwheel shaft resides in, and that, more than anything, made all the difference. Now, as you can see, both left and right, we have all of the deflection on the tail wheel that we need, and we'll show you some taxiing footage now so that you can see what we're talking about. You'll notice oiling the springs has pretty much fixed our problem, whether we're taxiing on our geotextile runway or in the grass. I have to say that I was critical of the springs, even though my review was very positive. Oiling moving parts is just part of being a modeler, and that's the modeler's responsibility. So Motion RC, I have to say, you got the springs right. I just didn't do my part until, 10 flights in. My bad. Alright, now we're going to talk about power. A lot of you are going to know what this is. For those of you that don't, this is a watt meter. Watt meter is an instrument that you use to take readings for power and amps, among other things, for an RC airplane. You hook your power source or your battery into one end, you plug the other end into the ESC, and when you do a full throttle run-up, this gives you all kinds of great information. For our purposes today, we're going to be paying attention to the amps and the watts. For those that don't know, amps is current, heat. That is the thing that can burn a motor and ESC up if you pull more than they're rated for. Watts, for the purposes of an RC pilot, for us that's horsepower. The more, the better. So we'll show you some testing that we did. And what we did, we started with our 15/8 6S prop, and we used that to get a standard. We did a watt meter pull on that, and we took the amps that we got from that as our standard. Now the reason that we're doing that, we know that we have an 80 amp ESC, but we can't just assume that it's okay to pull 80 amps because we don't have the specs on the motor. We don't know what the motor can take. It may be far less than that. What we do know is that Motion RC said don't use the bigger 4S prop on 6S. So that tells me that whatever amp draw we get with the 15/8, we just need to set that as our standard and commit to not going above that. So we're going to do a watt meter pull there, show you what we got. The next thing that we did a pull with the 16/8 on 4S. Now, the reason we have 2, these are essentially both APC props. One's black, one's gray. This one came with the airplane. This one I had in my prop drawer. And the difference is, when we went to do the test, this one was crazy out of balance. So rather than go to the trouble of balancing it, I knew I had 2 that were balanced, so I just used one of mine. We'll show you the results of that, and what you'll notice is obviously there's less horsepower on 4STOL. We knew that was going to be the case. What we didn't know is that there'd be such a big difference in amps. Well, the difference in amps was low enough to where that gave us a lot of amps to play with. We could maximize our 4S system by putting a larger prop on there and getting the amp draw up to the same place that it was on our 6-cell prop on 6S, and that would optimize our power for 4S. And what we settled on, and we'll show you the amp pull on this one, is a 1710 APC prop. This gets the amp draw right up to exactly where it is on 6S with the 15.8. But what it also does is it adds a lot more watts, a lot more horsepower than we were getting over the 16.8 stock prop. And once we show you all that, we'll go to the flight footage. I put my 3D Sport Pilot hat on, if you will, to do these flights to show you the maximum performance possibilities with the airplane on all these different power systems. So the first thing you'll see is just some clips of me ringing this thing out on 6S with the 15.8 prop. Then you'll see some clips of how much power it has or doesn't have with the stock 16.8 prop on 4S. And then we'll show you a short flight in its entirety on 4S with the 1710. It's a much better airplane on 4S with this prop. A lot more capability. It's actually a lot of fun. I think you'll be really impressed now that we figured out how to optimize the system. And the great thing about this is less than 10 bucks and you can get them anywhere. You can get them from Amazon, your local hobby shop, a bunch of different online dealers. Get yourself a 1710 E-prop, and if you want to run 4S, you'll really like your Bison a lot more. So check out the testing footage, check out the flight footage, and we'll see you back in the shop after that. This is an HRB 6S 4060C with an APC 15.8 prop, or the stock prop that comes with the Bison for 6S. Bottom left-hand corner of the meter, 44.86 amps, 1075.7 watts. This is an Onyx 4-cell 5000 30C with an APC 16.8 E-prop. Bottom left-hand corner of the meter, .82 amps, 482.4 watts. This is a 4-cell 5000 Onyx 30C with an APC 1710 E-prop. Bottom left-hand corner, as they scroll through, 44.82 amps, 710.8 watts. We start our Bison flight footage this week on 6S. 6S is the most power you can make in the Bison. From a piloting perspective, it inspires the most confidence you can have flying the plane. It's not 3D power, but it has close to 3D plane power. It's the standard by which we're comparing everything else for a reason. So enjoy the flight and watch what this thing's got on 6S. Now we're moving into the footage of the 4S with the 16.8 prop, and you'll notice it's a stark contrast to 6S. You'll see in this takeoff and this next one that you have enough power to fly in a tight space. You can clear obstacles okay, but it's more like scale power than the raw power of the 6S. This is full throttle, full speed with the 16.8 on 4S, and as you can see, when you go vertical, even from full speed, you run out of energy pretty fast. Here I put the plane in slow flight specifically to see how deep in the throttle I had to get to hold it, and if I had enough throttle to pull out of it at full throttle. And there is just enough, but nothing spectacular. You'll notice the conservative altitude of this knife edge attempt and the following inverted flight attempt. You can put the plane in both and you can sustain it for a short while, but there's not enough power to really sustain either for very long. While you can fly the airplane on 4S with the 16.8 prop, it's not confidence inspiring. You feel the entire time like you're having to make up for a loss of power, and especially if you want to do sport aerobatics, there really just isn't enough power there. If that's your ticket, you're going to want to try the prop coming up. So now we've got the 1710 prop on 4S, and I believe right off the bat the difference will be pretty obvious to you. I can tell you from a pilot's perspective, the difference in confidence for me was really big. If you're going to fly the Bison on 4S, I think this is your ticket. Check out the performance and see what you think. Enjoy the flight. So there you go. That's how you optimize this airplane if you want to fly it on 4S for less than 10 bucks. That said, I do have to give a shout out to my buddy Logan Jones from the Hobby Shop in Stockbridge, Georgia. I didn't have time to get there and pick that prop up so we could complete our testing, and Logan was nice enough to hand deliver it to us. So Logan, thank you. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and tune in next week when we're going to do something that's not a bush plane. It's a fighter, and it's got bent wings. I bet you can guess what it's going to be. Hopefully we'll see you then.